Was that your all-time like dream car, or do you have another one that is the next level for you?
I don't know. It was in the realm of realistic.
Okay.
And you can get stupid cars like Bugattis,
right?
And I guess Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and I'm not sure that really fits well in Carmel, Westfield, Indiana. It probably does.
It's starting to.
But the Bentley was kind of fairly normal, so to speak, not over the top. But and Patty's the one that made me get it. So I bought a 2006 Mercedes CLS.
You've had that for a while.
In 2006. And so I bought it brand new, and it was just 3 years ago. She goes, "Can you just please get another car?"
That's hilarious.
I don't need another car.
Yeah.
But so she forced me.
So she forced you to. That was the first car you bought since 2006.
For
you.
me,
yeah.
She gets one every 3 years or whatever.
Got to keep. Do you lease for her?
I do.
Okay, that's smart.
Company car.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. See, that's what I got to figure out next. That's the next step for me is figuring out.
Oh, we should talk.
Oh, okay.
Been doing it for years and years, so it works.
Yeah, I know a guy now.
Yeah.
So, I've known a guy for a few years.
You need to find a smarter guy than me, Will. So.
You don't have to be smart to run businesses, though. That's what I'm figuring out. You just got to know smart people.
Well, that's what my dad told me all along. He said, just surround yourself with the people that have the ers. And I said, the ers, they're smarter, better, harder working, all that. If you can do that, just stay out of their way.
You're golden. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Well, you're one of my favorite people in the world.
Oh, thanks,
Kim.
Kim.
When we met a few years ago, started having coffee every once in a while, just sharing stories and things. So it's a privilege. Thank you for asking me to be here.
Definitely. Thanks for being on.
Privilege.
Well, guys, with us today we have Mr. Kim Arbuckle. And Kim is a serial entrepreneur. He owns, I'll let him tell what businesses he owns because there's probably more than I'm even thinking of. But Kim and I met back in my Tom James days. So that would have been, I think we met 2018, maybe early 2019. And I cold called Kim because I prospected him because of the home he lived in, that was a beautiful home. A lot of roofing issues.
I missed that house.
It was a cool house. And I bugged him for about 6 months before he was finally like, all right, I'll meet with you. And met with him. And, it's funny because you're still not, you still are not a clothing client to this day. But it's understandable.
I've purchased a suit. And I tell you what, it's one of those electric blue suits.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, people compliment it.
Yeah.
Everywhere. It's stupid good looking.
I think we need to get you a hot pink suit one of these days.
I've actually kind of looked at that, but fortunately they were out of the material when I ordered it. So.
Fortunately, yeah. Well, Kim, tell us who Kim Arbuckle is.
Oh, boy, that'd take about 10 seconds, and then people would fall asleep. So,
okay.
But,
let's do that.
I as we were talking with Braden and Will, I think I am now the oldest official guest that you've ever had on your podcast.
You win that award.
Yep, yeah. 66 years old. Hopefully I don't look it. Certainly don't act it. My wife says I act like I'm a 16-year-old because I still laugh.
That's what keeps you young,
things.
Though.
Yeah, I like to think so.
Yeah.
And when your kids want you to go out with them and go to the bars and stuff, I think maybe that way it means I don't embarrass them too much anyway.
Yeah.
So, but
you got cool kids though too.
Oh man, I'm so lucky. Yeah, it's because of my wife, I think.
Which we had Kurt on. I can't remember which episode that was. That was the first podcast studio. So it's been a little while. But Kurt's been on too. So you guys should go back and check out that episode.
Yeah, I'll brag to him that I'm in the new studio and he was in the older one.
Yeah.
But no, I don't even know where to start with. I mean, I'm just I grew up in a small town. I mean, 1,200 people.
Yeah.
I always bragged that I was in the top 100 in my class. Well, there was 89 in the class, so I definitely was in the top 100.
There you go.
But I am one of the few guys that can actually say, I went to both Purdue and IU. So I'm an IU grad, but I still tend to favor IU, but I still root for Purdue. So there's not many guys that actually do that. I can say they root for both teams.
Right. I had friends that went to one or the other.
Yeah,
that was
of course.
Yeah.
And I would never recommend, actually, as I digress, and I knew I should have gone to IU, but I was at Purdue, but I grew up near Lafayette, West Lafayette. And so I needed to go there because I grew up a big Rick Mount fan in basketball.
Which town were you in? Or
Remington.
That's right. Okay.
Remington. Yeah. If you go to Chicago on I-65, you have to go past it.
Right.
Actually, I knew I should have gone to IU to begin with. So I didn't go. I joined a fraternity my sophomore year. Strategically, I found out the good fraternities at IU, so I rushed and joined it at Purdue. So I would never recommend anyone to go from one fraternity to the rival school, like in Indiana and Purdue. So not only was I the guy from Purdue, but I also, even though I was a brother in the fraternity, there wasn't any pledges in there. It was some pretty good guys in my class. The mayor of, I almost necessarily say good guys, but the mayor of Indianapolis was in my fraternity. And Jim Merritt was I think he was a senator. He was in there. But obviously one is Republican, and Hogshead's he's the Democrat. That's another story. So I just did that, and then probably I got my MBA when computers didn't exist. So
do you think that makes things harder now, or was it? Do you think it was harder then than it is now, or?
Oh, I think it's probably much harder now.
Really?
MBA. I'm guessing it is.
Okay.
I was one of the, and not many people in '86 had MBAs. Now I think if you're trying to move up the corporate ladder and whatever, I think an MBA is really, really helpful. But it was unusual back then. Do
you find that it's helpful because of having the MBA after your name, or do you find it helpful
back then?
for
I
other
think
reasons?
it was because it was unusual. Now it's probably mandatory depending on some things that you want to do.
Okay.
But I grew up. My dad always said, "Get into a corporate job and be there, and you'll get a pension."
Right. That was the thing.
Today, people go, "What's a pension?"
Yeah.
Right. But that was the whole idea. Stay with the company 40 years, and my dad grew up. We were very modest. I like to tell the story that I lived in a hotel until I was 9 years old. First of all, my parents were spectacular. I had the best growing. I would not change a single thing. Lived in a hotel until I was 9. They actually owned the hotel. It was like a boarding house in a small town.
Yeah.
It was like if you've seen the show It's a Wonderful Life, where there's older men that live there, or you'd have transient people in the summertime that'd come in and live there for 3 months as they worked on a pipeline or whatever. And then I lived in a mobile home for the next 4 years.
Cool.
It was a great mobile home. My dad says, we're going to move into a mobile home. It's not a double wide, but it's a 12 by 70, which was pretty cool back then. You're going to have your own bathroom at the other end of
coming up in the world.
It's kind of bright.
You know what's a fun fact about mobile homes and insurance is mobile homes cost more to insure than a normal house.
Seriously?
Because if they burn, the whole thing goes up in flames. It's like a matchbox. Yeah,
that's probably true. But he had a reason that we moved from the hotel that my parents owned to the trailer. Because if anyone around this area has ever heard of Indiana Beach,
my dad... Is Indiana Beach still open?
It's in Monticello, yeah, it is.
It is still open?
Yep,
okay.
It's still open.
Good. Yeah.
So he bought the driving range at Indiana Beach.
Really?
So at the age of, I'm going to say 10, 9, 10, in the summers, we picked up the mobile home, moved it over, set it on the driving range.
That's awesome.
And that's kind of how I got involved in golf a little bit.
That's a good way to grow up.
So I worked, shagging balls is what we called it, mowing, and waiting on people, trying to always get them to go from my dad says, get them to go from a small to a medium. If they order a medium, get them to get that large bucket of balls. I think a large bucket of balls is a buck. A buck and a quarter maybe back then.
Adds up.
Yeah. So there you go. Maybe that's my first sales job.
Yeah.
I was trying to do that. But it's kind of.
Do you find that all those working around people like that at such a young age helped you with people skills?
Absolutely. And I think part of it, if I have to be truly honest, part of it's DNA. I think my dad was very humble, and certainly was far from the wealthiest in the community. But whenever he walked into a room, he lit the room up just because he was kind to people. He smiled all the time, and he was very, very popular. And as a kid, I would walk and see him do that and not really understand what was going on, obviously. But I give credit to my dad, and
that's cool
for that reason, I think.
Well, and just because I think a lot of people think that when you're in sales or you smile a lot and whatever, it makes you a yes man. Do you think your dad was a yes man?
I don't think so. I think he felt that he had to please people.
Okay.
But I don't think yes meant giving in.
Right.
There's a saying that in business, never confuse kindness with weakness. And I truly believe that.
Oh, 100%.
To this day. No reason you can't be kind, but that doesn't mean you're going to be taken advantage of.
Well, and it almost shows, too, that you do have strength because you don't need to show your power. Right.
That's a good way to put it. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
And cool. So, selling is, which I tended to gravitate to, and I would say I'm not a very good salesperson per se, if you looked at all the books and studied the features, benefits, and this and that. But I think maybe from a genuine standpoint, I'm pretty good at making people believe in what I believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's a form of selling.
Well,
I don't know.
that's interesting because sales. I've struggled with this because I never wanted to get into sales. I was just good at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even to this day, like now, I've never enjoyed reading sales books. I did for a time to kind of build my craft, so to speak.
Yep.
But I started focusing on learning more about, one, I read the Bible more,
Yep.
which is a great,
Brilliant.
I wouldn't say sales book, but a book on dealing with people, right?
Yep.
But I started reading more, about just books about people, how to win friends and influence people. Right there, an amazing book, right?
That is, when I tell people, when they ask what's your favorite books, you always go to the Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah, and those, when you're good at sales, you identify needs, and then you match what you believe into those needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're also good at sales, usually you're a salesy person whenever it comes to something you believe in because you believe in it so much, and you're just like, you should check this out, you should do this too, because it'll help that person out, right?
So you're already a PhD in sales. I'm like in a kindergarten world. It took me a while to the levels of knowledge. And one is the people that don't know that they don't know. Those are dangerous people.
Yeah.
When you know that you don't know, that's smart because you're going to learn.
Yep.
But it took me a while to figure things out. I better start trying to understand a little more. But I was never an ego kind of guy. But I always had a kind of fear of failure.
Oh, I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
I still got that fear.
So do I. And that's why I'm not a very good cold caller. It's not something I do very well.
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't thought about that. Maybe that's why I hate cold calling
Fear
so
of
much.
failure. How can you say that? You were calling people right and left.
I know.
Tom James.
Well,
I mean, that's a gift. If someone that has no problem hearing the word no.
Yeah.
Again and again and again.
And again about 100 more times.
I tend to. I just tend to take it personally, and I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't. I'm smart enough to know I shouldn't, and I'm smart enough to know that I should be cold calling or.
Yeah. See, I'm also a glutton for punishment too.
Well,
I like to get beaten, which is also probably why I was in mixed martial arts for years and had 2 amateur fights, and then played rugby, and then here I am in CrossFit now, doing that and love it. But
that physique doesn't come easy, so you're working your butt off at it.
Try.
Sure.
I could look better too, but couldn't we all?
No.
Well, Kim, tell us. So when you and I first met, we sat down and I showed you my swatches, everything we were doing then, just kind of told you more about it. And then, you're like, well, we're not going to do this now. But then when we were sitting down, I was like, how did you do all this? And then we started talking. I was like, you told me your story of what kind of sent you down the entrepreneurial rabbit hole, because you were a corporate man for a little while.
All my life until like in my 40s.
Really?
Late 40s.
So it was into your 40s that you finally went out on your own.
Yeah, and it was actually not that I remember, but how about September 28th of 2008?
You got the date?
At about 11:40 in the morning.
You know the time too.
It was as I say it was the worst day in my professional life, but little did I know, it was the best day.
It was the best
of
day
my professional life. I just didn't know it at the time.
Yeah. Cool. So dive into that story.
Okay. It's a
sit back and buckle up,
embarrassing.
Right?
Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing, and it's 100% true. I will not embellish it. And the first part's a little uncomfortable for me because I have to kind of set the tone.
Sure.
And when I left, let's just talk what company it was. And I think most people have probably heard of the corporation. It was Bose, the speaker company. I had...
it's a slightly big company.
A slightly big company. And I had worked my way up, and I was overseeing a division of the Americas for Bose Corporation. I had engineering, project management, customer service, sales that reported up through me. And I was... this is the uncomfortable part because it's not very good. I was probably considered a golden child.
Okay.
Because we were just killing it.
Yeah.
What we were doing, and we were selling speakers, right, to national accounts. Think of it as Abercrombie and Fitch's and the Hollisters and Appleby, just any national account you can think of, we would direct.
Who was your largest account?
Abercrombie and Fitch.
Abercrombie.
Yeah, back in, if you can remember the old days when you'd walk into a store and you couldn't hear each other, you couldn't even talk because
you couldn't smell anything other than their cologne too. Yeah.
And we did most of the Hollister brand back in those days.
Yeah.
So I actually, which was this kind of important part of it, I actually kept Abercrombie and Fitch as my personal account. I was the sales guy for that as well. But the salespeople had their own accounts and et cetera. So I had actually even won the President's Award of 10,000 employees, and the only person that had ever won that in our division.
Wow.
The reason I say that, it's only because we were killing it. And I as I look back and you kind of do the Monday morning quarterback of why certain things happen, it was my idea, and this is back to shows you the timing, when flat screen TVs, plasma screens were the big deal.
Were the new thing.
They were the big deal.
Yeah.
And I said, if we could start selling TVs to a restaurant chain, just pick anything you want, any restaurant chain you want, that was the big deal. They'll take our speakers if we can provide the TVs. Well, a VP at Bose goes, we don't sell TVs. And I thought, well, what if I gave it a try?
Yeah.
So I gave it a try, and the customer at the time loved it, and they said, yeah, we'll take your speakers too, but we love these TVs because they're hot.
Yeah.
So we finally got, I don't want to say I proved him wrong, but I did kind of prove this guy wrong. And we still sold a lot of speakers. That's what our core business was, right? But I think, I know, in retrospect, I don't think he liked the fact that I kind of probably proved him wrong. So we are killing it. And here's where the fun part starts, okay? So we were having all kinds of fun, breaking records, sales records, et cetera. And every year, I'm kind of an idea guy. What I lack in intelligence, I kind of have like ideas for experiential things. Another book is called The Experience Economy. I would highly recommend everyone to read that. That's about the ability to craft unique and compelling experiences that are completely designed and crafted to transcend, exceed people's expectations. So that was all about. So every year, we would rent a 85-foot houseboat and go to Lake Havasu.
Big party lake.
That's correct. Like bad boys. What you can, that. So, but what we would do, we would have all my managers come in, and we would invite the decision makers, director level, VP level of all of our accounts, our top accounts. They'd fly in. We'd go pick them up in a speedboat. We'd take this big houseboat, had a hot tub and a slide and pretty well decked out. And they would stay with us for 2 days, and we would plan. What did we do right this past year? What are you going to be doing? How many stores are you going to be building? What should we plan on doing? What can we do better? All those kinds of things. So there was a meeting of the minds. People would come in and out during the entire week. Spectacular. Always a success. Always looking forward to it. So this is the third year that we did this. Now starts the interesting part. And I always had a rule. Because we would park in a cove, and then during the week there wouldn't be many people. But as the week progressed, especially on Thursday, definitely Friday, Saturday we would come in, bring the houseboat in, and then we'd all take off on Sundays back to our places, right? Back to our respective offices around the country. So I had rules. We had, obviously we're Bose, we have speakers, and we could blast some music, but never any profanity. We didn't fly a Bose flag on the houseboat. Toward the end of the week, if there were ever families that came over that said, which was always the case, can our kids come down your slide? We wouldn't do it during business hours, but there would be a point where you're like, okay. But we always had to be there, and we had to allow the parents on the boat watching things, just trying to be adults, right?
Keep it kosher.
Kosher. So this is the third year that this occurred. Well, prior to leaving to go to Lake Havasu, there was a woman that wanted to go. She was an engineer, and we actually tried to accommodate, thinking, okay, this is an all-male, all the guys. How do you put a female? So we looked at renting another houseboat to have her and another marketing lady who was there next to us to try and accommodate. Understood it. Understood the desire. She really didn't need to be there. She wasn't a manager level. Did everything we could, and my boss said, we can't do it. We just can't do it. So she was denied. Now, my boss would always go too. He was always there for 3 or 4 days. And he was awesome too. So she couldn't go. And I know that, as I know now, that didn't go over all that well, that she wasn't allowed to go.
Oh, gosh.
So we had a great week, like it always was. And it was the Saturday, the end, and we were done. All of our customers had left, and it was kind of our day after our meeting in the morning, talking about the planning. Here's what we're going to do. At noon, we had 5 more hours. We just said, we're done for the week. Let's have fun. And that's when we allowed people on the boat. And it was mostly families and kids, obviously. We had one of my employees that was in charge of taking videos and pictures, and we would take those and send them to our customers and say, hey, meeting out over whatever, and just showed them, and it was a good little thing to follow up with them. So at the end of that trip, now we're all done. It was a great time. Families were on there, kids were going off the boat, and it was spectacular. I left to go get some ice. In the boat we had, speedboat, come back to the boat. Everything was spectacular. We leave the next day, perfect, no problems. 6 weeks later, we get we have one of the guys I'm with me that took all the videos, sent me the videos and pictures on a disc. This is how old it was, long ago.
Back when there were CDs.
I'm looking through it, and there were 3 photos that stuck out, of 2 videos and a photo that stuck out.
Okay.
And I said, eliminate those. They don't need to see it. And what it was one was a video of about now this is 100 and some degrees in Lake Havasu in the summertime.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Swimming suits everywhere, right?
Yeah, of course.
Was one of our managers jumping off the top of the houseboat with like a 14-year-old girl because she was afraid to jump off. So the video was, we can do this. Little did the video show that the mom and dad were standing right behind.
Right.
So you can do it. So they just kind of held hands and jumped off together. Extremely innocent. But by itself, no one would really know what it was.
You don't know the context.
She's 14-year-old. She's in a bikini, right? And my manager guy is probably 35.
Sure.
Just take that out. It doesn't need to be there. There was another one where there was a chugging contest, a beer, with one of our guys and a grown woman. And she was in her bikini, but her husband was there. And they were restaurant owners. So we were talking to them about putting Bose on all their stores.
Yeah.
And so that was a chugging contest. I think she actually won. She beat the guy. And that was a video. I go, that can stay off. That doesn't need to be in it.
Right.
And the other still photo was that same woman. We handed her husband the business card.
Okay.
And the business card, call us when you get back.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't want to put it in his swimming trunks. He handed it to his wife, who put it in her
Fair enough.
top.
Yeah.
And someone took a picture of the Bose business card in a top. There was
Probably doesn't
nothing
need to be in
risque.
there. Yeah.
That didn't need to be in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Something, okay, wow. So 6 weeks later, one of the engineers and that young lady at Bose that didn't get to go on the trip, they had to go into a laptop of the guy that was on the trip that took the pictures and everything.
Okay.
That I had him erase all that stuff. Well, he didn't erase it from his personal laptop. She went into the laptop to get some plans that he had back in Massachusetts. She pulls the laptop up and sees a file that says, personal file, Lake Havasu. She had no right to go into this, but she did. So there was all these videos and stuff of, let's just say it looked like a party.
Yeah.
There were a lot of pictures that weren't, but there was a lot of pictures that were on that last day when there was 75 boats, houseboats in the cove.
Yeah.
People are playing, having fun. Well, I get a call from my boss that says, hey, this girl has complained that she went into this file and saw what looked like a gigantic party, and she didn't get to go, and now she's saying that's why she didn't get to go, because she was...
Gosh.
And so my boss, who had been there for 3 days, he wasn't there on that Saturday. He had already left. 3rd year in a row we did this. So I get a call from HR about these pictures. I wasn't in any of the pictures, actually. And so I'm on the phone basically kind of fighting and trying to explain what transpired, fighting for what I thought was going to be a real problem for 3 individuals that were in those pictures. And so a couple of HR conversations with them. And so it got a little quiet, and then I had to fly to Framingham to the Bose corporate facility to interview a project manager. So I'm in my late 40s, at this point, and or early 50s, whatever. I have to do the math. And so I get to the corporate. I land. I go to the get ready to go to one of the buildings, and my boss's assistant said, "Hey, they need you to go to the corporate facility up there instead of down here at our building." Oh, okay. So I walk in. They direct me to the room I'm supposed to be in, and I walk in, and there is sitting in a very small, probably a room just a little bigger than this, a lady that I didn't know, and then that VP that clearly didn't like me.
Right.
And not that I can recall, but he said, effective immediately, you are no longer an employee of Bose Corporation. He said, I can tell you by your present and past performances, this went to the highest levels of the Bose silo. I don't know what silo meant, but that's what he called it, at the Bose silo. And it was determined that you oversaw what appeared to be a animal house environment, and because of that, you're no longer an employee at Bose Corporation. And I had a wife who didn't work, 4 kids, and I said, it's been an honor and a privilege working for Bose Corporation. I didn't know what else to say. And then he said, effective midnight, you no longer have insurance, and there is no severance. I'd been there 10 years.
Wow.
I said, seriously?
Yeah.
And he said, we need your phone and your laptop. And I'm in Boston, or Framingham, Massachusetts. I said, really, how am I supposed to book a flight and get home?
Yeah.
They allowed me to keep my phone. So that was September 28th, 2008. If anyone remembers 2008, it was the beginning of the recession.
Yeah.
Not the best time in the world to have no insurance at midnight and 0 monies coming into from. So for anyone that's been fired, I was fired. I wasn't like it was you get a chance to resign.
Right.
I was fired. You go through so many emotions. For anyone that's ever been fired, I went through embarrassed, totally embarrassed, scared for my livelihood, for my family. And then as it transpires, you go through different phases. Then you get inquisitive. Why did this happen to me? Then I'll be honest, but I got angry.
Yeah.
You got angry. Then you think about, okay, what can I do revenge? But I kept it like somehow they're going to figure out that I was okay. Because actually a lot of the employees, as I find out, were going to bat and saying, why did he didn't do anything wrong, et cetera. But it didn't matter at that point. So, but that was the worst day of my life in the business. But little did I know it was the best, because I loved the people I worked for. It was a great company. I was killing it, doing really well money-wise. I never would have left.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have left. So I went back and I actually, I called the vice president of Abercrombie & Fitch. I said, I just want you to know that I'm no longer employed at Bose. I got let go. And it was like, okay. So what are you going to do? And I said, I have no idea. No idea. So he said, have you thought about doing this on your own? I said, back then, of speakers and everything we did at a Hollister store was a lot of money. Anybody who knows, very loud music, high-end stuff, they did it correct. They went overboard in music. I didn't have that kind of money, because we always did the work, and then we finished the install. 30 days later, they paid us. And they were building a lot of stores. And I said, no, I don't think I could. He says, well, what if we helped? He says, because my relationship is with you, not with Bose. Now keep in mind, every store had to be identical. Yeah. Every store had the same exact speakers, same amplifiers, control systems. They wanted it all identical. And it makes sense, because if you got 600 stores across the United States, you want them to be identical in the way they operate. And he said, what if we paid you up front so you could buy all the equipment up front? Okay. So I attribute that to relationships, how important they are. That vice president of Abercrombie, I didn't have any. And I was going up against Bose Corporation, who'd been doing hundreds and hundreds of stores. And so that's when I said, well, maybe this will work.
Yeah.
And so I hired a guy that reported to a guy that reported to me from Bose, who was doing the project management. He came on board and thought everything was great. And it started, and then I got a letter from Bose Corporation, from the attorneys, cease and desist. You can't do this, and they gave me 9 reasons. So I'm looking through the 9 reasons. I was like, okay, I could get through 8 of them, but one of them, this is where it gets a lot of fun. One of them was a proprietary piece of equipment, I won't go into details, in the amplifier that had to EQ the system.
Okay.
Abercrombie and Fitch, which is same as Hollister, was the largest purchaser of that equipment in the world. And all their stores had this piece of equipment. They wanted everything identical.
Yeah.
So I called the vice president and I said, I can get by with all the other 8 things.
Yeah.
Don't use the manual we created, some other stuff. But I can't get past this. This is in every one of your stores, and it needs to be in every future store.
Yeah.
He said, are you telling me that piece of equipment can't be found anywhere else? I said, no, I think we can find another different brand that would do the same thing. He goes, well, let's do it. Let's use a different piece of equipment to do that. So midstream, after 300 or 400 stores,
wow,
they stopped using that. Bose lost their biggest customer, and their customer was the biggest for our division, to my little business, that KD Global Solutions, that I started.
Yeah.
And they not only, but they lost that piece of equipment too, because we started using something else. So I could get past what the attorneys said I couldn't use. I became one of the bigger Bose dealers. I tried not. It's the story about you just wanted to crush somebody.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much revenge was in my mind, but I just said, someday, don't burn a bridge.
Yeah.
Do not burn a bridge. Do it right. Do the right thing. Figure it out. And so they allowed me, because they didn't want to lose their customer, to continue to buy Bose speakers at the time. So eventually, that business, and that's why this comes the part where it was the worst day, but I didn't know it was going to be the best day of my life.
Yeah.
They forced me into being an entrepreneur. And then that business, and still operational today.
Yeah.
We do work in all 50 states. We've done work in 32 countries around the world. Audio, video, so we're in audio video integration. So we do video, security systems, digital signage, music content, and it was because of that worst day.
Yeah.
Correct? Because the worst day of my business career forced me. So sometimes, thank God for unanswered prayers, because I prayed that they'd figure it out. They'd bring me back. Certainly they'd bring me back. And it was thank God for unanswered prayers, because little did I know, maybe maybe had a different thought I could do something better.
Yeah.
And that's what started my entrepreneurial ways, I think.
Well, it's crazy because you as you said, you wouldn't have ever left.
No,
it was a great company.
I got flat out fired, and it took, as I'm walking to my car that day, escorted.
Yeah.
That's how you get escorted. By a security guard. Got my laptop out of and just gave it to him.
Yeah.
And the most humbling experience, embarrassing. And then I sat in the car that September day. It was a beautiful day in Framingham, Massachusetts. Afraid to call my wife to tell her I didn't have a job. And I didn't know what my neighbors would think. I didn't know what my children would think. And I do recall, and I think Kurt would tell you, my girl, I cried like a baby telling my kids that I had lost my job. I wanted to be honest. My neighbors wouldn't. I worked out of my home, right? So the corporate office, I was gone a lot, traveling. Didn't have to tell them. They would never have known. But it was tough to be dishonest.
Yeah.
So it was a very humbling experience. I still to this day don't believe I deserved it. And nobody else. There was one other person that got fired that day. As a matter of fact, the guy that took the pictures, and it was his laptop that the person looked into. It was his business card that was in the in the thing too, in the bikini top that just was stuck out, half in, half out of the bikini top.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a moral of the story. If there's a moral of the story is, you never know why things happen, and I think don't burn bridges.
Yeah.
if you don't have to. So I've tried to never. So we're a Bose dealer to this day.
Yeah.
And
Also, God always has better plans for us than we expect, right?
He did. And, you know, the road wasn't always paved with gold. I mean, there was challenges and
well, you're not going to get better if it is.
No.
You know, if it's all smooth sailing, there's nothing to get better for. It's the trying times, the adversity you go through, losing the job, and a great job at that, to now becoming an entrepreneur and, you know, going from corporate man to owning your own business. I mean, how long had you and your wife been married at that point?
Let's say we were married in 1984, and this was 2008.
Okay. So.
And had 4 children. Probably the youngest was maybe 5.
Okay. And so.
Maybe 10 at that point.
Okay.
10, 12, 14, 16, something like that.
What was her reaction when you called her?
She was supportive, calming. It was okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that I told her at that point we didn't have a severance pay and there was no insurance. Of course, she didn't work, and I've been blessed that she hasn't had to work. She worked at Lilly for 5 years before she ended up quitting after 2 years with me after we had Kurt. So perfect on her part, but we cried together. You know, when I got home later that day and stuff, it was scary. Yeah. And then, you know, thinking back for anyone that can remember 2008, 2009, they weren't really. It was the toughest. It was a recession, right? Yeah. And people weren't hiring, and so I actually went a few years. There's a little more to the story. I did take on a senior VP job of another company as I built that business.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yep.
So I was working, and I brought that other guy in to do the project management. So we kind of did it together, but I funded it for the next 3 years by being a senior VP for a couple different companies. Yeah,
well, that's sometimes what you have to do. You know, you work on your side hustle in the meantime, and then hopefully one day it explodes and you don't have to work for the man anymore. Well, right?
And now I'm building my company at this point, my first company. I'm also a senior VP for a very large company. Back then it was called DMX, Mood Media, today Muzak, whatever. But it was ironic in that where I was at, I still promoted Bose products, and that was a huge company where I went to. We were a dealer at that time. We were another company that sold, and so I basically did the thing for another company. It wasn't a manufacturer; it was a regular company. We were my second year there. We were the Bose Dealer of the Year. That company, and
that's funny.
3 of us were to go to Bose to be honored, and they were
that's funny.
Guess who was supposed to be in that meeting? I said supposed to be. Yeah. That guy that fired me.
Really?
He did not show up. And I went. It was my first time back at Bose, and many of the employees were still there. That
well, because it's not the company itself. It sounds like it was 1 or 2 people that had it out for you.
And I was looking forward to seeing people. And but that guy was supposed to be in that meeting, and he wasn't in it. And I thought, you know, that there's a lot of emotions going on. How am I gonna when I see this guy? Am I gonna thank him? Am I gonna give him a cold shoulder? I decided, you know, I'm gonna shake his hand and say, thank you. We appreciate being Bose Dealer of the Year. Yeah. He didn't show up at the meeting. So I thought that was funny. I don't know if he was scared to or he just, I don't know, who knows. Yeah. Speculation.
How did your faith help you through that identity crisis at that point? And then, also the kind of the fear?
Well, I think in those dark moments, quiet moments when you're by yourself, you know, you pray and say, Lord, help me. I got some problems here. So it was heavy. Heavy for me, and I think the faith that the right thing would happen, and it just didn't happen overnight. Right. It was probably a couple months before I really felt that I'm out of the woods. I saw light at the end of the tunnel, and it wasn't a train. Yeah. But faith was certainly a big deal. A big deal.
Have you seen that? There's like a picture on LinkedIn, and it's a stick figure guy. And it has a progression of this guy, and he's standing tall and proud, and then he slowly progresses. It's like the life of a business owner, right? And he slowly progresses to where he is just beat down, and then to a point where he's sitting with his hand in his, or his head in his hands, down to where he's like on the floor, just like, what am I gonna do? Down to where then he gets to his knees.
I feel it.
And then when you get to your knees, you pray, and then things start to turn around. And I think that's a cool picture and a cool representation of what you go through as a business owner. Yep. And that's can be almost every day sometimes. But then how do we get to our knees before we get to that point of being on the floor and at our worst, because a lot of us, we just get so busy, we don't go to our knees until we have to.
Yep.
Right.
And I've luckily not had to, although I pray every day. And there's times where I need some guidance.
Yeah.
That's typically my praying thankfulness and guidance. I try not to ask for things. That's.
There are times though.
I'm blessed beyond, and so I try not to ask. It's a little guilty, but the guidance is kind of a way of asking, in a way, of what the thing. And fortunately, I've been very lucky, health-wise and family, not to be on my knees too often.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, faith played a big part of it.
Good.
Yep.
So tell us what all you're into now, because it's not just KD Global Solutions anymore.
No, it is not. And so we became very successful. COVID was not very good to me in that business, and it's still a little tough if you stop and think. Our business revolves around national accounts and retail, restaurant, fitness. We currently do almost all the LA Fitness International stores around the country. You can attest to what happened during COVID, right? And so these brands were not building it there. So anyway, so pretty diverse, quite frankly. The only company that's close to that, there's a sister company. Okay. The KD Global does audio and video.
Okay.
And security cameras.
Right.
The sister company does the music content, because wherever you're at, in a retail space, you hear music, you have to pay for that.
Right.
Because the artists and the producers, all those people need paid. So that company provides music content and scent, as you mentioned, which is
pretty cool.
Kind of a big deal. And digital signage. So it's a sister company that does different things, but it always works together. Those are the companies that are in the AV kind of business world for me. It wasn't maybe I owned a Dippin' Dots franchise.
So did you really?
Yeah, we did that for 14 years.
14 years.
I remember doing that business plan in Aruba on a family vacation, sitting on the beach, got the little kids running everywhere, and all my girls, 3 girls and a son, they were in cheerleaders. So they at cheerleader functions and all these things at camp and competition. There'd always be a line of 50 girls lined up at the Dippin' Dots thing.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Okay. So I did a business plan over a spring break, and we became Dippin' Dots owners. Franchise, had a store, and fairs and festivals. So we did that. And actually, it was a great thing because I taught the kids waiting on people. Yeah. Doing that thing was a lot of good.
So your kids worked at the Dippin' Dots?
They absolutely.
Oh, that's cool.
They absolutely worked the store.
I think that's one of the coolest things about business ownership is getting your family involved and getting the kids working at a young age and around dealing with people.
It's a good way to teach. Yeah. Not to say there aren't challenges. Their friends coming up wanting free ice cream and stuff.
Right.
And we're not.
Or kids just being kids.
Kids being kids. Absolutely. Lots of stories.
No, get out of here, you little urchin.
Lots of stories I could tell you off the podcast. I really want to send this. But so that was maybe the first other business that we started. Sold that a few years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But a very good friend of mine came to me and says, hey, very successful. Everything he touched seems to turn to gold.
Gotta love that.
And he said, hey, I got an idea. I want you to be my partner in this. And he goes, I want to meet you for lunch. This is in West Lafayette back in 2000. Well, right now it's been 11 years ago.
Okay.
And we sat for lunch, and he throws a business plan at me and looks and says, cigar lounge. Well, I said, okay, I might have 2 cigars a year, 3 cigars. He didn't smoke that many cigars. He goes, I want to start a cigar lounge. That is like the best of the best. I go, sounds good, but I know nothing about cigars, and I know nothing about running a bar. And I said, I don't think you do either. And he goes, no, but I know the guy that does. And so we're going to go in. We're going to partner up with him. You and I are going to buy him out. We're in West Lafayette at the time. This is in Indianapolis. And that was the creation of Blend. So Mark Holden, Corey Johnston, who owned Indy Cigar Lounge, who had one of 4 licenses in Indianapolis. Yep. The 3 of us went together and formed Blend. For anyone that's in it, it's a different cigar lounge. So we built it. There was a woman designer that helped us design the furnishings and everything.
Really?
Because we wanted it to be somewhere, we didn't want it to be a sports bar, and it was interesting how we actually determined what it was going to be, but we first determined what it's not going to be. Yeah. We didn't want it to be a nightclub. We didn't want it to be a sports bar. And somewhere in between, and have it a classy place. And a woman designer. So we wanted people to, the non-typical cigar, everybody's got in their mind what a cigar line. You know, guys in there smoky, you have to burn your clothes when you leave. That's the idea of it. We want to be the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So we spent $250,000 in every store that we built. We did have 4. We just shut Nashville down.
Oh, you shut it down?
Yeah. After
Really?
7 years, it was I digress a little bit. Yeah, it was the least profitable one. 2 blocks off Broadway and Tootsie's. It was a tough environment. It was the smallest footprint and the least attractive. I mean, you love all your kids the same kids in this situation. Stores, Pittsburgh, the Woodlands in Houston, Indianapolis, and Nashville.
Ooh, okay.
It was the least attractive, and so we shut that down. It just wasn't doing well. So we now have Pittsburgh, we have Houston, and Indianapolis. And we were voted the best cigar lounge in the world, I believe, in 2016. So the 3 of us flew to Germany to accept the award.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and I, by no stretch of imagination, take ownership of how good we are. I had ideas, certain things we wanted to do, and leadership from Mark Holden, and then the proprietary operations from Corey Johnston.
Yeah. What's your most profitable store right now?
Well, Houston, the Woodlands just surpassed Indianapolis.
Really?
Yep, just surpassed.
Houston's blowing up, though.
It is. The Woodlands is spectacular, and gosh, I'm very proud of those because you know it's a unique, beautiful, and when you go in, you won't smell like smoke when you come out.
That's cool.
It's impossible not to have but you're not gonna. You know, some people are like, oh, this is horrendous.
Well, you go into the one downtown. It's in a basement.
Yes.
That one. I can't remember the name, but anyway,
I can't. But I don't want to disparage it.
But fair enough. Yeah, it's you stink coming out of there. Yeah. I love the smell of cigars, but like 3-day-old cigar in a sport coat. That's
a tough. It's almost like a speakeasy feel down there, and it's cool in its own self. And now there's another one downtown called Burn, and it's a beautiful place.
I haven't been in there yet.
It's a Rocky Patel thing, and I got to give them credit for what they've got. We're a little different. But you know, we've got a what's called the boardroom at each of our locations, and it's a hidden room through a bookcase, and it's a membership to be a member to be able to go back there. One-time initiation fee. But we have Blend Limo, which is actually a Sprinter van decked out with TVs, and you're able ventilation so you can smoke cigars in there. All the boardroom members get to use that for free.
We had that at one of our trunk shows with Tom James. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can't remember. I think it was my partner that set it up when I was there, but yeah, they came out and that thing was cool, man. That van is sweet. Cool. Yeah.
We've got 2. Houston's got one. Pittsburgh does not. But so that in itself is again about creating unique, compelling experiences designed to exceed expectations. So that's $25,000. There's junior memberships. That's much different. It's only $5,000 now. Okay. But for the longest time, it was $25,000 to be a member. And you can go to any, not a year, just one time. Okay. And there were some benefits and things that you would get from that. So you can go to any blend and go through the board. They're going to know your boardroom, not a board member. There's a difference being a board member, that's ownership, or someone that's been asked to be on the board. But that's boardroom memberships. And we still have those today. It's pretty cool. So Blend was the cigar thing that I did. I've got this story is, how long do we have? Because we got
as long as you want.
The trucking story is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Remind me the trucking story. Let me do the other businesses before I go to the trucking story. That's one of my favorite stories. But so the other one of the other businesses is I'm one of the owners at Prime 47 Steakhouse in Carmel, not downtown. I'm very proud of that and can take no credit for its operations and everything. That's done by a good friend and proprietor, Jeremiah Hammond. Okay. He is a bulldog. He's like the Bobby Knight of restaurateurs, man.
What's the steak that's named after you again called?
It's called the Arbuckle.
that thing is good.
Thank you. And there's another great friend of mine, Tom Fine, that they named that after him too. So anyway, it kind of went back like, I love Ruth Steaks, Ruth Chris Steaks. And I go, could you cook mine in butter? And so they kind of evolved into that kind of a thing, and they cut at your table. Prime 47 in Carmel is awesome, and I think it's about the experience and the people that work there is what makes it. We've got a great chef.
The staff there is incredible.
Thank you. And again, I can't take credit for that, but they are just good people, and you walk in, and for the most part, almost all the time make me very proud when people say I've been there and they had a great meal.
Yeah, the experience there is great.
So,
yeah. Same thing with Blend. I mean, it's
it's
a great place to go, and there are a lot of successful people that hang out there.
Well, you bring up I met some of my best friends right now through Blend.
Really?
Quite frankly. It's call it a bit of a brotherhood, where you can just sit down and you don't need to smoke cigars when you go in there. Matter of fact, probably 50% of the people do, 50 don't. Especially if you're a woman, maybe 20%.
Yeah.
But when you start a business, when 9% of the population of men smoke cigars and 1% of the women, you better figure out another way to get people in, and because you're going to have to bring in other people. And so we got great selection, but Blend is another place for exceptional experience when you go in. The way you're treated.
Well, and cigars just there's something about them. Like you can build relationships over them.
Yeah, and that's maybe a brotherhood, and I have maybe 10 cigars a year, maybe, but
it's
never. In the house that you were at at Emerald Viking.
Yeah.
Do you remember the cigar room I had?
I don't think you ever showed me that.
It was in the lower level, right off the wine. So try not to right off the wine. But it was a room that, and I didn't build it. It was a room that they had as a wine tasting room. So I put the ventilation in, a supply air and ventilation, and smoke eaters and TVs, and it was an amazing place to go and sit and have a cigar.
I had
with friends.
One of my friends' dads in high school. He had a house in Indianapolis near Blend. And he had a humidor room as well. Hopefully he never listens to this podcast because I'm going to reveal that both me and one of my other buddies took a sip of his Blue Label Johnny Walker. So don't kill me. But yeah, he that was such a cool, like, we just sat in there and just like, oh man. Yeah, anyways.
Well, that house, cool. Again, digressing, but that house was, I can't take credit for any, because it was the Homerama home in the neighborhood of Viking Meadow in the gated community. And it had so many, it was a ranch with a finished lower level and had an elevator. So it had so many cool things.
It was badass.
As they do. But when we sold it, the realtor told me, Mike Deck, who's a great realtor in this area, recommend him. He's just a good person, as well as a realtor. But he would say, everybody, for the men, the women are looking through, and the men, that was the thing. That cigar room. Even if they did, but it was just the thought. So
I'd love to have one.
Anybody that is thinking about doing something, if you had a cigar room or a wine room,
good sale point.
Good sell point. So that's Blend, and we talked about this Prime, and in the last few years, I started Arbuckle Robotics.
That's right.
And Kurt probably talked a little bit about that. I won't go into too much detail.
Well, and that's recently taken off.
Well,
too, hasn't it?
Especially in the floor cleaning. It's I'll be honest with you, a lot of you're seeing it in some hospitality where robots will come and bring food and things like that. I wouldn't say it's fine dining, but the floor cleaning opportunities are probably what's going to explode. So that's that part.
How soon do you think it is until you see? Because like something I looked into recently that I personally invested in is the EVTOL. That's the acronym for it, but it's they're essentially electric drones that fly cargo and passengers. So my question for you is how soon? Because those are starting to come up, right? Amazon's already using them in some states.
Yes, they are.
I haven't done a ton of research on where they're using them yet, but they're the defense systems, or what am I trying to say? Secretary of Defense, whatever they are, Defense Department. There we go. They're going to be using them at some point in the future, and United Airlines is also going to be using these in the future.
You're telling me things that's outside the realm of my intelligence level and capabilities. So I've just chosen a certain sector or vertical in that whole world of robotics.
But robotics, where I was going with that is how soon do you see robotics blowing up in hospitality, in restaurants?
There's a place for it. You see it in, let's say, a lot of Asian restaurants, quite frankly, are doing it. You won't see it probably in fine dining, right, because of the experience and the personal aspect of it. But I see it in country clubs, and I can see it in a lot of areas where robots just, server can put the dishes on it. Yeah. The robot takes it all the way to the kitchen and allows the servers to do something that's more attentive to the customers, so to speak. So
is there any particular company that is building these things that would be a good company to invest in?
Well, I know we're getting our robots from a place called Pringle Robotics out of Peoria.
Okay.
But I know there's other robots that are good, and so I guess I can't. I'm. You wouldn't want me to give you that advice because I'm not sure I have the right.
Fair enough.
If I knew, you'd be the first to go tell you and let people run.
We can all be millionaires in a few years, right?
Stock advisors. So, and then the other one that is incredible is the weapons detection business. So the weapons detection business we started last year, and it's think of it as the metal detectors that you go through when you go to a ball game, stadiums, everywhere. And this crazy world in which we live, it's sad, but you're hearing people shooting the guns all the time. Yeah. So this is a different. We call them gateways. You have to walk through them, but you can walk through with your phones. You can walk and your keys. Yeah. And it's not going to detect because what you want you to detect is revolvers, firearms, knives as well. So that is going to just completely take over, I think, very, very soon.
Really?
So especially with the school systems that are already looking at it right now.
Kurt's told me that's one of the like main clients.
That's
schools.
It's going to be start as soon as the next version of the weapons detection system gateways where you walk through. Right now, it'd be way too slow. It's going to be too many false positives, backpacks with kids, computers and stuff. But that's coming, where it's going to be able to differentiate. Then schools are going to get it, and it's kind of AI, and it doesn't look like the old metal detectors that like you walk through and under. Yeah. Nothing like that. It's beautiful. We put wraps on them. Wraps meaning decals. We just I just got back. Oh, I'm sorry. We got back this week from the VA hospital.
Oh, cool.
In Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. First time I've been to a VA hospital. It's humbling. All the veterans there that are challenges. But at any rate, at all their locations, and here locally, we just installed at community. The community hospitals situation. They've got a great CEO, and they've got an amazing guy named Kevin Mahan, who's vice president of basically security at community hospitals. And they're going to be installing the weapons detection. We've installed 11 towers so far, 11 gateways. And the data that they are providing us for the number of handguns and knives that they're catching is mind-boggling.
Really? Now, well, and is that just because of where it is, being a VA hospital?
Oh, well, and I refer to community hospital.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We just installed in Richmond. We haven't got any data there yet. But the community hospital network here, it's been installed for maybe 2 weeks now. Yeah. The data is mind-blowing. And what's interesting is what's actually even a better data than the number of knives and revolvers they're catching is the number of people that they see come up and then go back to the parking lot and then come through. So meaning they've got one of those and they're taking them back to their vehicle. So that weapons detection business is spectacular. We've done Madison Square Garden, Radio City Music Hall, Tesla plants, and cool. One of the coolest ones is the Sphere in Vegas. We just put the system. If you know anything about the Sphere, look it up. It's the most amazing thing, I think, maybe physically that it should be like the ninth wonder of the world or something. So it's currently operational in Vegas, the Sphere. So look that up. It's incredible.
I've heard, there's apparently a UFC fight there in 24 sometime. One of my friends, he's like, we should go. I think it's maybe the debut one there or something like that.
Well, U2 opened in September or late August. Okay. There. But it's a $2.3 billion project. Jeez. And it's audio. It had 161,000 speakers. And the LED is just unbelievable.
Did you guys get to bid on that project?
No. You
wouldn't be sitting here right now.
I know that I know. I couldn't have done that.
Yeah. Oh, so, man. That's crazy.
Those are set up for failure. So, anyway, the weapons detection business called CK2 Technologies is great.
That's going to be great.
I have an interest in a medical device business. Not the manufacturing of it, but the distribution and dealership of it, which is amazing. It's called ARPWave.
Yeah, we got to use that. Yeah, you introduced me to your buddy.
It's great. In the physical environment, it's been many of the major athletes around the world have used it and are still using it. So that's it's helped me for sure, and I highly ArcWave is an awesome product.
Yeah, similar to a TENS unit, but different. There's a lot more
That's
that
correct.
it does.
People would go, this is a TENS unit, it's electrical, but it has to do with the waves, and I'm the wrong guy to explain this. But it has to do with the wavelengths, and it's direct current versus alternating current, and it's an amazing product.
What advice would you have for young entrepreneurs getting started, or just young people in business getting started, or wanting to maybe they're in there, maybe they're not young, maybe they're in their 40s and they've lost their job, or they're tired of being beaten down by corporations, and they're ready to.
Really good questions. You have to be different, I think, a little bit. I've always said you need to be comfortably uncomfortable with what you're doing, because it's a risk.
Yeah.
I think the youth have seen, when I say youth, let's just say high school to after college, 30, have seen those 20-something software guys that are gazillionaires.
But you see the good life all over social media.
It's not that easy. Yeah, can you make an app, or can you do this software? And yeah, probably can, but not likely. But
right.
As you very well know, entrepreneurship has its benefits. You're your own boss, but all the challenges fall in your lap. So I don't think it's for the faint-hearted, but I think it's for a lot of people. I got the corporate world experience. Large corporations, learned a lot of good things. I mimicked a lot of the things that I learned, and a lot of things that I thought were horrible, I didn't utilize. So it was good advice and bad advice that I took into the entrepreneurial world. So I think you ask a lot of questions, and you talk to those people who are in that entrepreneurship, and so that you learn every single bit about what you're going to experience as best as you can.
Yeah. So be comfortably uncomfortable.
Yeah, because if you think this is a breeze and you're comfortable about it, there's going to be some challenges.
Yeah.
But anything worth going after is worth the challenge, and it's not going to be all roses and a beautiful paved way. There's going to be broken glass on fire, people throwing Molotov cocktails at you. That's an exaggeration, obviously. But if you can mine through that, and here again, surround yourself with people that are spectacular, that you really want to help. Have that servitude, have that caring about human beings and about your customer. It's really tough to fake to customers that you care about them. But I've had this saying: once you've established credibility, people don't care how much you know; they want to know how much you care. It's tough to fake that. Some people can fake it, but when you're faking that you care for them, most people can feel that.
Yeah.
But if you truly do care, man, that's a value added in any business. So when you're providing something, and you're not the only one in the world, be a monopoly.
Yeah.
If you were the only one providing that, you got to differentiate yourself. And how do you differentiate yourself? It's about doing everything you can possibly do to make people happy in a sincere way, and that experience thing. Create those unique, compelling experiences. Be a great listener, and just try and deliver and exceed their expectations when you deliver. If you have that servitude and hard work, maybe you're cut out for it. Yep.
That's great advice. That's great advice.
But care about people, not only your customer, but care about the people that you work with.
Yeah.
And man, if you can make those people you work with happy, feel wanted, cared for, when you go home at night, or however you do that work, that's the added benefit of making money, but you're helping other families prosper, and maybe one of those people will be an offshoot, and they'll prosper too. That's at this point in my life, the biggest gratification is helping other people. And I'm not a gazillionaire, but I'm close. So it's not like I'm in that.
You're doing something right though.
Well, I'm hiring and getting around people that are good people that help me to succeed, and I get the heck out of the way. So,
well, that leads into my last question for you: is what legacy do you want to leave?
I can tell you the legacy that I'm truly most proud of is when people come up to me. I get a little emotional actually, and tell me how nice my kids are, and how kind they are, and how much they care about other people.
That's big.
Yeah. That's the legacy I want to leave. Sorry about that, but That's truth.
Emotion is truth, man.
And that's what I'm the most proud of. I got an unbelievable wife that everybody, I can't kick my coverage in every way. And so, but my kids, that's the thing when people say, your kids are amazing. That's the legacy I'm going to leave when I leave. Hopefully they'll carry on, and I've taught them a little bit too.
At least the one I've met, good people.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can meet my daughters, or even better.
We'll make sure he listens to that part of the podcast too. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, Kim, thanks for coming on today.
It's
been a great conversation.
Well, it's a privilege. Braden, thank you for doing what you did. So thank you.
Definitely.
Good work. Keep it up, man.
Will do.
Love you, buddy.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.